The charges are widespread fraud to steal an election, and that's coming from President Trump's legal team. They're planning to file even more court challenges to prove their case.
What about proof? President Trump's lawyers offered some evidence, but say they're holding the proof for the courtroom. So what happens next? Ben Kennedy has the story from Washington.
Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani said the fraud was widespread.
Because there's not a singular voter fraud in one state. This pattern repeats itself in a number of states. Almost exactly the same pattern, which to any experienced investigator, prosecutor, would suggest that there was a plan from a centralized place to execute these various acts of voter fraud.
And attorney Sidney Powell talked about votes appearing out of nowhere.
Talking about some massive straight lines up in the vote tallies in the middle of the night after they've supposedly stopped counting. And that's when the Dominion operators went in and injected votes and changed the whole system.
Powell spoke of voting software being manipulated to change votes from President Trump to Joe Biden. Conservative Fox host Tucker Carlson pointed out Thursday night that Powell has said similar things recently, but when his show asked for evidence to back up her claims, they got none.
But she never sent us any evidence, despite a lot of requests, polite requests, not a page.
As for the question of evidence, it came up in Thursday's press conference. The Trump team said they aren't showing their proof yet. That will come in court. In other developments Thursday, Georgia finished its audit of the presidential race and confirmed Joe Biden won by more than 12,000 votes. The state also found no evidence of widespread fraud. The Trump campaign responded that Georgia's audit had included illegal ballots and asked for what it called an honest recount. President Trump is set to meet with Republican leaders of the Michigan legislature today at the White House to possibly discuss appointing electors who would support him. For now, his legal team will move forward with the challenges in court. Ben Kennedy, CBN News.
Our CBN News chief political analyst David Brody is with us from Washington. And David, welcome to the show. Got to ask you, if they're not going to go forward with proof in these press conferences, shouldn't they just shut down the press conferences? Why have them? I'm looking at this. It's a complete disaster for Trump. And why is he even doing it?
A couple reasons, Gordon. It's a PR battle. So you've got the legal battle and you've got the PR battle. And I'll be honest with you, I'm surprised they hadn't done a press conference earlier than yesterday. I mean, it made no sense. They were getting killed in the press on this daily. But they finally did it. And as Jenna Ellis said, she said that, look, this is the opening statement. And I thought what was interesting is she said, you know, the folks in the media want this to be an episode of Law and Order where it's all done in 44 minutes plus commercials for a total of 60, and that's just not the way the legal process works. Anyhow, the point to what you're saying is that from a PR standpoint, they had to come out and start to trickle out a few things of evidence. Now, the big question is, where's the rest of it? They're promising a big enchilada of evidence coming. Boy, they better have that, Gordon, or, you know, there's going to be obviously a lot of problems in a fallout situation from that.
Well, I will point out they have had other press conferences. There's the famous Four Seasons Total Landscaping. It just doesn't seem to be helping. Whenever they get in front of the cameras, it just doesn't seem to be helping.
Well, a couple of things. You know, the Four Seasons landscape situation was there. I think it was Rudy Giuliani, and then they had one in Nevada. They had different ones in different states. This one was in Washington, D.C. with the whole team of lawyers, and this should have happened a long time ago. And quite frankly, what they needed to do is present even more evidence. They're saying they can't release many of the affidavits they have. There are 8 public ones that are out there, but they can't release the rest of them because of potential death threats to these people and all of that. So, look, the bottom line is the media has been AWOL on all of this. I mean, in other words, they're chalking it all up to conspiracy theories. And the last time I checked, don't you have to investigate potential, when I say evidence, Dominion voting systems? And where's the Pulitzer Prize journalism out there that could pull off the journalism story of the century if they could find this? But they have no interest in doing that. I said, who do I mean by they? The national media. Look, Gordon, I've got a list, and I can send it to you. I'll send it to you after the show. I've got a list of all the local affiliates around the country doing fraud story after fraud story after fraud story. And remember, we know that the national media said there was no fraud. Then they said there's no widespread fraud. Now they're saying there's no systemic fraud. I mean, the goalposts keep moving. I guess I would just simply say that the evidence is clearly out there, but the media has been absolutely AWOL on all of this.
Well, I wouldn't expect anything else. I mean, the media has been campaigning against Trump since he was elected, so I'm not particularly surprised about that. Well, run me through when we're going to get to court and taking the Trump campaign at their word that they'll produce that in court. So when can we expect to see evidence produced in front of a judge?
Well, here's the dirty little secret, and it's back to December 14th when the electors will vote. And so this idea of when the court battle happens as compared to when the electors will vote, let's be honest, here's the secret. They don't want a court to decide anything before December 14th. I mean, they want this to be an electoral mess. And so on December 14th, electors may potentially not be able to go ahead and choose who they're going to vote for, if you will. Why? Because the court battles haven't been decided, and therefore certification can't happen. And I think that's what we're looking at, Gordon. And we've talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I think we had a discussion about what could happen from a state legislature standpoint. And here we go, Gordon. Donald Trump is going to meet, the president of the United States is going to meet with two top Michigan Republicans from the Senate and the House. He's going to talk to them, the state legislature, about, obviously, something along the lines of the electoral process. We don't know exactly, but that meeting is happening at the White House on Friday. And a lot of people are saying, what in the world is the president doing? But look, from a constitutional perspective, I talked to Alan Dershowitz the other day. He said the president's well within his legal rights to do it. Constitutionally, he can do it. And that's what the state legislatures are there for, to have a protection against what could be potential voter fraud in this election. I say could be. Let's see the evidence.
Okay, well, again, the question is always, let's see the evidence. But without people sort of buying in that there's evidence of widespread fraud, if you don't have that, and you have state legislatures coming in and saying we're going to invalidate the vote totals and vote our own slate of electors in so that our team gets to win, aren't you really playing with fire? I mean, at that point in time, does anyone trust our democracy anymore? I mean, all the allegations that we're looking at dictatorship, that we're looking at overthrowing democracy, all of those allegations come to the fore, and I would predict you'd see rioting in the streets.
Well, I think your prediction would come true. I think you're absolutely right. I will say this, that what you just laid out is the one argument for not doing what Trump's legal team wants to do. Trump's legal team will argue that why shouldn't there be a process? This is what the framers had intended all along. They were concerned about voting irregularities. They were concerned about voter fraud. And so, you know, the way the Trump legal team looks at this is that if, and that's the big if, we keep getting back to evidence, right? But if there is something out there, which the Trump campaign is going to have to show, but if it's out there, then this is the safeguard. This is the constitutional safeguard for it. But once again, back to the evidence.
All right. Well, you got to prove it. So
yeah.
Hopefully they'll be in front of a judge pretty soon. That's my take on it. Well, David, thank you. Thank you for the analysis, and I'm predicting we're going to have more analysis. I would say this to everyone watching, please pray for our country. This is an incredible turn of events, and now more than ever we need to pray. Are we truly one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all? Please be in prayer for our